There's only 7 games left in the regular season for the Tar Heels, and they got some ground to make up. What do they got to do down the stretch?
This is David Noel, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Thursday, February 12th, 2026. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Network, now the #1 sports podcast network out there. Thanks so much for making us your first listener watch to get this Thursday going the right way. Want to welcome in all our everydayers, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, as well as our insiders. Coming up on the show today, there's only 7 games left in the regular season, as hard as that is to believe. Carolina has some work to do. So what's going to happen, what needs to happen down the stretch? Let's not forget, as frustrating as Tuesday night was, and it was frustrating, man, what a victory over Duke on Saturday night. I want to try to figure out where Seth Trimble's shot fits in Carolina lore and who are the real Heels, because we've got 2 very different examples from recent days. And just a little fun on the back end of this thing. Literally, I'm watching some alpine skiing down here on my iPad as we record. Looks like America's going to get a silver in that one. Way to go. I think it's the G-Force or the G, whatever, Super G. That's what it's called. So I want to know which current Tar Heels would make great Winter Olympians. We're going to have some fun with that one. And that we that I just alluded to is your friend and mine, Mr. Josh Marlow from Heel Tough Blog, from Four Corners Podcast. He is the man. It's great to have Marlow here, and I'm very, very excited to unpack all of this. He was in the building Saturday night, and so I'm excited to hear his thoughts on that whole moment. But Marlow, let's just start here with Carolina having 2 very different results in their past 2 games. Although, obviously only leading for 4/10 of those 80 minutes of play, oddly enough. But what I want to do is actually project forward a little bit before we look back. Knowing where Carolina sits right now at 19-5 overall, 7-4 in the ACC, 7th in the standings, 7 games to go, 4 at home, 3 away, 5 quad 1 opportunities left. And I want to kind of look at it separately from an ACC tournament standpoint and an NCAA tournament standpoint. So let's start with the conference side of things. What does Carolina need to do down the stretch here?
They just need to find a way to bottle up whatever they do at home and take it on the road.
Just pack it in your suitcase. Let's go.
And at this point, it's easier said than done, because this is as up and down, I think, a team that I think I have seen that's like in fringe contention status. Like, there were some years at the back end of the Roy Williams era where
was it like 13-14 that won crazy games and lost confounding games?
Yeah, and I was like, you're talking about a team this year, Schade, that's beaten Kansas, they've beaten Kentucky, they've beaten Duke, but they have losses to Miami, to Stanford, to Cal, that all could have been avoidable. And maybe because of the teams that you've beaten, you should make the argument should be avoidable.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. They've got to just find some consistent level of play. And look, I get it all the time. I hear, well, they've yet to play 40 minutes of basketball, whether it's home or away. And I think that's part of it too, is that we're at the point in the year now where I do think how it looks matters. Like when it's November, December, even in January, I'm very big on we got to start building towards our best and getting as close to whatever our best looks like. But once you get into February, once you get to 7 games to go, I need you to start peaking. I need you to start climbing up the mountain and maybe not, you're just stuttering up the mountain, if you will. And so they just got to find a way to do the things that they do really, really well at home, to do so a lot more consistently on the road, because had they done that on Tuesday night in Miami, they win the game. Miami was giving you the door to win the game.
100%.
Because they did not shoot the ball well for the majority of the second half, but for whatever reason, you could not string together enough stops with enough makes, whatever it was, to get out there with the win. So, look, when this team's at home, they're a top 10, 12 team in the country. They look like a national title contender when they play at home. When they go on the road, they look like an above average team. They look like a tournament team, but a team that could be one and done, maybe two and done come March Madness. And when you're beating the likes of Kansas, Duke, and Kentucky, you should have a lot more belief that you're more of a national title contender than where this team finds themselves right now.
Dude, yes, absolutely. By the way, yes, it was the 13-14 season. They lost to Belmont and UAB.
Yeah.
Louisville, who was number 1 at KenPom, Michigan State, who was number 9 at KenPom, and Kentucky, who was 13th at KenPom, all in non-con play. Dude, it was crazy. I had completely forgotten about that till you just said, there's been some other seasons, and then that just popped into my head. Yeah, like, is there a way we could figure out how to play the ACC tournament and NCAA tournament, maybe in the Smith Center or Carmichael or something, like go back to Woolen Gym? Whatever's got to happen here, Marlow. Let's make it happen, because Carolina obviously undefeated at home, which bodes well for 4 of these final 7 games.
Yep.
But you still got to go to State on Tuesday night, and I'm very nervous about that, Marlow. I hate to admit it, but I am. Got to go to Syracuse and obviously to Duke to wrap the regular season. And so there's a lot of worry there about how that's going to play out. As we look at the ACC, Marlow, I mean, even if Carolina went 7-0 down the stretch, there's no way they bypass Duke. Duke's not going to lose 4 conference games.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of these top teams, Carolina's 7th right now. A lot of the top teams still have to play one another, so Carolina can still move up. But they got to find what you're talking about. They got to find a way to pack it up and take it on the road to Raleigh, to Syracuse, and to Durham to get, maybe 2-1 at least on those away games. Is that, you think that does enough to, and what's the ceiling for the ACC standings,
Yeah, I mean, going into last night, I mean, I would have thought outside chance you could finish with a tie with Duke and get all the way up to 1. At this rate, with our loss last night, with Duke's win last night, you're not making up a 3-game deficit with 7 games to play.
No.
But I mean, you even jeopardize now. I think top 4, like you narrowed your own margin for error. Like, I thought you had room to get 2 losses the rest of the way. And that could have been maybe, to assuming that you're going to split with Duke, because that's my expectation every year, is that we're going to split.
Sure.
And then maybe you got room for 1 loss, whether that's, I'd hate for it to be to NC State. Maybe you get tripped up by Clemson at home, no matter what it is. But I thought you had room for 2 losses. And when the problem with losing to Miami, and I don't want to take away from Miami because they're good, that game meant more to them. They needed that game as they're trying to really build their tournament resume. They got their 3rd quad 1 win on Tuesday night. But if you can't go on the road and win at Miami, why should I trust you to go win a game at NC State? Why should I trust you to go and maybe beat a team even like Clemson, maybe at home that, like Miami doesn't have a star on their roster, but is just a really good, solid basketball team that's well coached and plays to their strengths. So, I mean, their ceiling is back into top 4. And look, if you get the double bye in the ACC tournament, that makes it easier for you to maybe, get 2 wins in Charlotte. Yeah. But we last time I was on with you, Schade, we were talking about
this exact thing. Yep.
You positioning yourselves for big time things come March. And I don't know if they're still going to do that. Like, this team is going to make the NCAA tournament field. They're going to be, at worst a 5 or a 6 seed. But I really thought after the Duke win, you would start building momentum to maybe get, you moved up inside the top 4 seed lines of Lenardi seeding as of last night, but you lose that game, you fall out. It just feels like kind of what we've seen at different times under Hubert Davis, where it's just more of that roller coaster effect, where there's just not sustained success. And that's what Carolina fans are starved for. And that's why I've had many of them in my mentions for the last 24, 36, 48 hours, once again complaining about the head coach of a program that Saturday night at 8:30 they all proclaim to love. So
it's perplexing. People like, it's so wild. People live and die with the tides, and it's insane to watch, but always hilarious. And I'm just here for the ride. Marlow, obviously part of the conversation here is because of Coach Davis's tight-lippedness on Tuesday evening. We didn't really have much of an update on Caleb Wilson. Hopefully, we're all hoping, like, does he have a broken wrist? Like, what is the severity here? As you and I are recording, Shelby Swanson has reported, who she's reports for the News and Observer, so obviously a very legit source here, that Caleb Wilson has a sprained wrist. That would be his left wrist. He obviously was able to return to the game on Tuesday with heavy bandaging, so that's good news. I don't have any further information at this time, so we'll keep our eyes on that, Marlow, and what that means. But hey, that doesn't sprained left wrist doesn't stop you from boxing out on a free throw. So we're going to have to see there what that means going forward. And so, yeah, I'm with you. NCAA tournament wise, I'd started to put my eyes on, hey, a 2 or a 3 seed. I think became a very viable possibility. 1 seed would be tough because just the top heaviness of the nation right now. Mm-hmm. But good grief. And look, there's still possibility of that, but the inconsistency of most of this season doesn't suggest to me that Carolina would be able to go 7-0 down the stretch here, right? And so,
right,
I like your point of coming into the Miami game, you maybe could afford 2 more losses. Well, if so, you just spoiled one of them, and now you're in a position similar to last year where you need to go. Actually, it was very similar. Remember last year, we were like, Carolina has to win these 6 games leading into the Duke game, and that might put them in position to be on the right side of the bubble. This year, it's a similar conversation, but it feels like you need to win those 6 games to keep yourself in top 4 conversation. And if you do so, that means you've beaten Louisville, you've beaten State, you've beaten Clemson, and I think that would put you in good shape for that. But as we sit here right now recording on Wednesday afternoon, it doesn't feel very possible.
Yeah, no, the appetite to just, say that with your chest out, right, isn't where it was Tuesday going into the Miami game, where Carolina fans and myself included, we're still riding the high of what the Duke win meant, what the Duke win, represented it. And so, I think now the ceiling for this team for NCAA tournament seeding, it's probably a 3, and it's probably, the back end of probably you being the 12th team in the overall field, getting that 3 seed beside your name when we get to that bracket on Selection Sunday. And again, I don't that would register that Carolina had a really strong season. From a seed expectation standpoint, you should at least make the second weekend. But I do think that, you could really look at it from a different point of lens, where if you don't go out west and get swept, that's why even if you split the West Coast trip,
yes,
how much different are we sitting here feeling about it today? You'd be 20-4, you'd be 8-3 in the league. You have that room for error that maybe you need because of you got to go to a state, you got to go to Duke in your final 7 games. Not that I want to lose those games, but those are going to be really tough games to win. And so I think that's why Carolina fans are where they are, is that you look at some of these losses, and I don't want to take away from these programs.
No.
But you should never lose to Cal. You should never lose to Stanford. Miami should never lead wire to wire against you, especially not this version of – this isn't Shane Larkin Miami that was a top 5 team that won the league and was a 1 seed,
a great
team come Selection Sunday. Like this was a team that was kind of fighting for its NCAA tournament lives, and they controlled the game from start to finish. That just should not happen when you're North Carolina basketball. So they still got a chance to do some big time things and get some more quad 1 wins.
Yep,
but
5.
I don't think that the trust is where it should be this late in the season with the player that's as gifted as Caleb Wilson, with some of the wins you've also stacked along the way.
Yeah, that's all well said, my friend. Well, we do want to rewind back to the good vibes of Saturday. We don't want to let Tuesday night completely spoil us. We don't want to let let me put it this way, Marlow. I don't want to let Tuesday's Chris Jenkins spoil Saturday's Marcus Page, right? And so I do want to rewind the tape a little bit to look at one of the biggest shots in recent memory, but how big is it in all of Carolina lore? I want to ask Marlow about that and about the vibes in the building, because it looked absolutely electric. We'll get to that coming up in just a second.
I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. Dawn Staley and South Carolina remain on top of the SEC standings after handing Tennessee their worst defeat in program history with a final score of 93-40. In the 43-point win, South Carolina shot 69% from the field. Tessa Johnson had a perfect shooting night, scoring 24 points, shooting 4 for 4 from the floor, including 2 threes, and made all 4 of her free throws. And UCLA remains undefeated in Big Ten play, topping Michigan 69-66 as Player of the Year contender Lauren Betts put up a double-double, scoring 16 points, collecting 16 rebounds, and adding 5 assists and 3 blocks. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts the same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
Thanks so much for making Locked On Tar Heels your first listener watch of the day and the Locked On Network, the #1 sports podcast network out there. It's crazy, it's wild, and it's all because of you guys. Thank you. And if you want to go even deeper with our show, you can take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everyday Club and get Locked On Tar Heels with no interruptions every single day, all just for $5 a month. Check it out, lockedontarheels.supercast.com. Marlow, Tuesday night, obviously super disappointing, but I do want to look back to Saturday night because it was the opposite of super disappointing. It was super awesome, appointing, whatever that word would be. My friend, you were there. You were in the building. Before I ask you about where Seth shot ranks or looking for anything else, I just need to know the energy of the building in general, not even the energy at the explosion of Seth's shot, but kind of throughout the night.
Yeah, so if you watch College Game Day, and me and Pags we went to the show. We always go to the show when game day's in town for the Duke game. You know, one of the things that Jay Billis talks about when he's describing the atmosphere is that there's a thicker air in the building than there is for any other game. I got into the arena 82 minutes before tip-off. That's when I got to my seat on media row. I did not proceed to move until the game went final, and you could feel it with about an hour and 20 minutes to go until tip. The student section was already full, the one on the court and the one up in the upper stands, and there was just a general buzz and excitement that was generating and permeating throughout, because I do think, and as we saw, I think Carolina fans were really confident they were going to be able to watch a win for the first time in almost 700 days against their arch rival. And so and that electricity, it never left. I was at the Duke game a year ago, and when Duke finally took control of the game in the second half, it all, the energy that exists in that game kind of left with it as Carolina would go on to lose. But even though Carolina was down, there was, every time the game went to timeout, the arena was still alive. The arena was still believing that Carolina was going to come back and be able to win the ball game. Shade, I've been in that building 25, 30 times in my life. That number continues to grow. It was the loudest I ever heard it at 3 different points, in the game.
Wow.
When Dixon hit the first 3, that was the loudest it had been to any point that in the night. When Veesaar hit the 3 to tie it, and I was screaming under my breath, "Why are you shooting that?" That was the loudest that I'd ever heard that building in my life. And
because
then,
Malik Brown was nowhere close to him, that's why he was shooting it.
Yeah, it was. And I don't know why Duke was daring a 46% 3-point shooter to shoot a 3, but I'm sure as heck glad they did. When the Trimble shot went in, I mean, it was ecstasy. It was pandemonium. It was everything that what you probably experienced at home on your televisions. It was that loud. It was that exciting. And it was just a rush of adrenaline that really I haven't felt be created outside of Final Four wins and national title wins. And that's what that game offers, man, because it's the biggest rivalry in sports. And that game means so much to the legacy that these guys want to leave at their respective spots. So, it was my third ever Duke Carolina game, my second one in the Smith Center. And everything that you get told about it, I experienced it to the fullest all day long. You could feel the energy from 10 a.m. well past midnight going into the next mornings as the guys were on Franklin Street celebrating the biggest win of their lives.
Marlow, part of the reason I wanted you to describe that, and I purposely didn't tell you this, but I wanted to give a defense for the reason for the court storm. I wanted people to understand the context in which it was building. It had been percolating. Carolina was on a 3-game losing streak. Carolina had been down most of the game, so there's the surprise and the shock of the immediacy of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And in my opinion, well worth every penny of $50,000. Run your butts out there, and all you dorks and nerds out there in the world who are like, oh, well, we'd never do that at Kansas. We wouldn't do that at Duke. Or these. It's like, dude, man, stop ruining my game. Stop taking the fun. It's an incredible moment. That's what separates college basketball from anything else. Give me that injected into my veins every day.
Yeah, and what's funny is I'll give you kind of behind the scenes of how like my day was. So pretty much Pags was my designated driver. He could not go to the game. We only got one credential. So he did the unselfish thing where I paid for the hotel. He had to watch the game at the hotel. I texted him when it was time to come pick me up. He knows how I feel about Carolina storming the court, where generally I don't believe in it. I think we're the best program in college basketball. When you've gone to 21 Final Fours, won 7 national championships, you should not celebrate in the manner that you see other programs celebrate. And so when he asked me, because he was expecting me to criticize it, I said, how could I complain about that? That the court storm capped the night. The court storm capped the moment. And look, Carolina has stormed the court 3 times that I know of in my lifetime. 2005, 2014, 2026. And all 3 of those court storms, they have something in common. They came after defining wins over Duke. 2005, the Marvin Williams bank shot, what is regarded as the loudest that building ever got.
Right.
And that team, I believe, does not win the national championship unless they win that game. So you get that win, that propels a national title run. 2014, no, that team didn't go to a Final Four, didn't win a national championship, but we had to wait 8 days because they were pansies, didn't want to drive on some ice after Carolina offered to go get them and bring them over to Chapel Hill.
Yes.
We will put all of our stuff at risk. We want to play the game. And well, he's a little bit nice. We don't want to. Okay. And as a kid, one of my favorite rivalry wins was watching that upset because Carolina was down like 15. Roy plays a 1-3-1 zone. They come back, win the game, court storm. And then in 2026, first time in 700 days, Seth Trimble hits the shot of his life. At the time, it eased some pressure off of Hubert Davis, who was 4-6 in the rivalry, and he was looking for his signature moment against Duke post-retiring Coach K. And so, no, should Carolina storm the court if they beat a ranked Louisville or a ranked Clemson later at home this year? No, they should not. I expect, and you expect to win those games.
That's right.
But when it's against your arch rival and you haven't had that moment in the rivalry, Carolina doesn't have a buzzer beater. You got the Caleb Love shot, which is great, but the game wasn't over.
Yep.
The Trimble shot effectively ended the game. We now have a buzzer beater to put to the montage of the Capel shot, which, reminder, by the way, Duke loses that game. They now we've got our Austin Rivers shot. We got our Jones shot. And so, no. Do I want us to storm the court every time we win a big game at home? No, I do not. But you beat your biggest rival in some dramatic fashion that feels defining for a player or a coach. I'm not going to get upset at kids that spend a lot of money to get a diploma from that university, to mainly get a good degree, but to be a part of that game for one time in their lives, storming the court, because the people that got to storm the court will get to tell that story for the next 20, 30, 40 years. And it's something that every Carolina fan should be envious of, because had I been able to storm the court, I would have stormed the court, and I would have done what Theo Pinson was joking about doing. I would have been punching Duke players. I would have been celebrating in ways that would not have been professional, because when I beat them, or whenever we beat them, I can't control myself.
You know, Marlow, they're going to be coming for you. You better. People can't take a joke apparently because people were coming for Theo. I saw some NC State fans insert themselves into that one for some reason. That
Which
was
is
wild.
odd because we know that NC State fans, those classless, soulless individuals, like if they beat Carolina next Tuesday, first off, they'll storm the court, and you can't put it past them wanting to injure our players, injure our coaching staff, no matter what it is. Like, that was the irony of it all, was it was the State fans that were being critical. It's like, guys,
Y'all just
first
lost
off,
by
Theo's
41.
just joking, but y'all would actually do it. I've been in the stadium when you heard Marquise Williams and y'all cheered. You've chanted injuring players before, so I don't want to. Theo was joking. Should he have said that? No, but it was a joke.
Come on,
my man went out there punching dudes.
If he had done that, there's no way in all of God's creation he says it. You know, it's not like how anyway. Also, Coach Davis had the chance to do the most hilarious thing in his post-game press conference after Miami stormed the court on Carolina, and just didn't take it. Understandably so, he was in a very sour and bitter mood. Marlow, quickly, where in your mind does Seth's shot sit? You got to be very careful how you say that. Where does Seth's shot sit in Carolina lore? You mentioned the Marvin Williams shot. You mentioned the Caleb Love shot. We've got Luke May. We've got MJ in the championship. Where does it sit for you?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think for the rivalry perspective, I'd have it third. I would rank it behind Caleb Love. I'd rank it behind Marvin Williams, just because what those two shots meant, what those two shots represented. Yep. I believe it in my heart that the 05 shot, like, they had to win that game to win a national championship. The Caleb Love shot, we know what happens on Monday, but on Saturday you retired the biggest villain in the history of sports for good. And the fact that it's third just tells you that even though Carolina doesn't have a buzzer beater, shows you the moments that they have had in the rivalry. But I would rank it third, but at that rate, it's a top 5 shot, I think, all time right there in program history. Because it probably eclipses a shot like Marcus Page, just because Page's sets you up for heartbreak. It doesn't top, Jordan's shot that put Carolina on top to win the Natty in 82. I think it jumps a Rick Fox buzzer beater against Oklahoma. I do think it jumps that because of who you beat and stuff. So
I'd put it behind the Luke May shot.
Yeah, I would too, because that Luke May shot
propels you to the Final Four and a national championship.
Final Four.
Yep.
So yeah, and I mean, and some people might think that's too low, but there's still some other moments that kind of need to be. We don't need to forget about.
Yep.
And so it's a top 5 shot in the history of the program, and I think it's the third biggest shot in the history of the rivalry. But that could change, Schade, if this season ages into a nice fine wine. Like if they go on a Final Four run, or God forbid they win a national championship, that shot, we'll think about it even more differently than we're thinking about it right now.
Yeah, that's
which
true.
Is, for many Carolina fans, the second biggest shot they've ever seen a Carolina basketball player hit against Duke.
Man, that's a good word. And so from everything we've said too, it sounds like, at least in recent memory, second biggest regular season shot for Carolina, because a lot of those were Luke May's postseason.
Yep.
The Caleb Love shots postseason, a lot of that. So man, very interesting. And I like your point. It's like we're going to need the benefit of some time and space before we can fully plant the flag of where it sits. And so with that in mind, we got to see how the rest of this season plays out. All right, Marlow, we mentioned it earlier. I'm an absolute Olympics junkie. I love it. So I got to know, which current Tar Heels would make great Winter Olympians, and what event would they be competing in? We're going to look at that, have a little fun to wrap the show coming up in just a second. right after I tell you about TurboTax. Look, tax season doesn't have to take over your life. And for me, it usually does, but it doesn't have to, because this year TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or the guesswork that I'm talking about. So instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms and all of that craziness, you can meet with a local expert either in person, or if you don't have time to do that, you can meet with them online as well. They're going to handle everything for you, from W-2s to self-employment forms, and then work hard to get you every deduction they possibly can. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and you're going to get updates right there in the TurboTax app. So for a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year. All you need to do is file by February 28th. So take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today. Marlo, it's been a jam-packed sports past couple weekdays, whatever you want to say. We had the Super Bowl on Sunday. We had Carolina Duke on Saturday. We had the opening ceremonies on Friday. And now we're thick into the first week of the Winter Olympics. And so I got to thinking, how could we have some fun with this? And so my question, what I want us to do, is to answer the question, which current men's Tar Heel basketball player is like the dude you could see being a Winter Olympian, and what event would they compete in? And I want to specify Winter Olympics because it's like, well, Caleb Wilson could be on the dream team or something, right? Like, no, we're not going there. That's too obvious and dumb. So I'm going to make it Winter Olympics with all of its crazy ice and snow and stuff like that. So Marlo, I'll let you go first. Who are you looking at for this?
I'm still going to start with Caleb Wilson. I think with those long legs and the strides that he takes, where he can do 3 steps and be across midcourt, I think he'd be a great skier of some capacity, just because I think, his legs could move in the snow a lot better than, let's say, someone like mine. I think Seth Trimble would do really, really good and maybe hockey, just because of how fast he is, how agile he is. I don't know, maybe he could handle the physicality. I don't know about that, but those are the 2 sports that I guess I'm most familiar with. Simply put, Schade, because I don't know what it takes to be a good lugist. I don't know what it takes to be a good how do you look at someone and say, man, that guy could do really good at the skeleton or the bobsled. Don't know how to identify those types of attributes, but I think I could find a good skier. I think I could find a good hockey player. So I'd probably start with Caleb Wilson and Seth Trimble for those 2 respective sports.
I feel like, have you not watched Cool Runnings? We know how to identify bobsledders. We need track stars. So, you know what? I think Seth would be a great, push man in bobsled. Get out behind it, be the dude that's coming off, man, because his power, his legs, his athleticism, get that good push out the gate. And so I think you'd make a great bobsledder. It's funny with Caleb, I was thinking with him, when you see not speed skating, not the short track where they're doing 87 ovals a minute, but the long track speed skating, where it's I feel like they've got a bunch of long gangly people out there doing that. And so it feels like Caleb's body type would fit really well in that, because of the strides you got to get and getting into the corners. So but it's funny that we both immediately went to Seth and Caleb, probably because of their athleticism, right? It's got to be, that's what sets them apart.
Yeah, and I think if I was trying to find someone maybe underrated, maybe off the radar, maybe a Jaydon Young, maybe like a Kyan Evans, maybe even a guy like Jared Stevenson, with how athletic he can be, how versatile he could be. But yeah, I went to Caleb Wilson because he's the best athlete, and I think Seth Trimble's also kind of in that same category. So it'd be easier to find something for them to do. Maybe even someone for speed skating. I don't know, something along those lines. Because I guess those are the Winter Olympic events if I were to get into any. I like the speed skating. The bobsled and that stuff it's fun because how dangerous it is. But not the same of affection for me for the Winter Olympics as we have with the summer.
100%. Now that, you know what, I said Caleb in long track speed skating. Now that I think about it, like the short track, Seth might be really good at that, because it's like you need those dudes that have like these just firm, compact bodies that are like explosively athletic, that can get into tight. Like I remember Apollo Antonono, the great American short track speed skater, and I think Seth could do really well with that. That'd be interesting. I'm even trying to think of ones that would be like actually not good, but would be hilarious to see them try to do it. Like, give me, I don't know, like going, this is not a current player, but like, I'd love to see Armando Baycott curling or something like that. Can you imagine how wild that would be?
Yeah. But I mean, knowing him, he would probably find a way to be good at it. Curling is a fascinating sport to watch.
It really is.
Because you are theoretically, what you're watching are people push a rock down some ice, and they're brushing the ice to dictate how fast the rock goes and determine where the rock lands. I don't know how it's so popular, and I don't know how it's caught on to the point where it's an Olympic viewing sport that my 72-year-old grandmother watches it very intently. But here we are. And so I'm ssure you could find, like, you tell me Henri Veesaar with those big long arms.
Couldn't do
I'd have him out there just brushing away, because I think and he could talk to the rock in a foreign voice. So, you know, he could say words that we wouldn't understand. If the rock is moving too fast, he could tell it to slow down or whatever. So I think he'd be really good out there trying to get that rock where you want that rock to go.
Gosh, I'd love to see Henri doing something.
That should be their punishment for not rebounding on Tuesday. They should go to the curling center and curl for 2.5 hours.
Okay, which Tar Heel, present, past, whatever, would make a great like men's figure skater, just out there in the tights with all the sparkles, twirling around? There's that dude, the dude for America right now. He's out there doing, I think they call him Quad God, because he's out there doing the 4 spins. Did he say he did a flip, Marlow, on skates in competition? It's like, what are you doing?
I think the easy answer is Seth Trimble's older brother. You tell me JP Pocoto couldn't be something of a menace out there figure skating, like with the way that he could contort his body in the air while dunking a basketball. I think he could work his way into becoming a good figure skater. You want to hear something funny?
Yes, always.
I believe that if I committed enough time to it, that I could figure skate. And so this is now something where one of my our afternoon hosts, his wife used to figure skate, and she figure skated from the time she was like 4 until she was like 16. Okay. Well, she has heard about this, and she thinks it's absurd, because the last time she saw me do anything physical, I was helping him move stuff out of his attic, and I was throwing up in his yard, and I covered it up with a leaf. And I believe that I could become an elite level figure skater. So I don't know if you have that same belief in yourself, but I believe
I don't.
6 months and I cut out the McDonald's, I could be over there in Milan figure skating with the Quad God and the rest of the best that the world has to offer.
Okay, let me ask it the other way. Because you can picture this person doing other sports, because we see him competing at pickleball and other stuff. What would Tyler Hansbrough do in the Winter Olympics? Like, I just want to see him out there with all his like, I could just see him going wild on something. I don't know what it would be. Maybe he'd be better fit for the Summer Olympics or something. But
to me, he gives off extreme,
like enforcer in ice hockey or something.
I mean, yeah, he's doing something where he's going to be roughing something up. He's going to be very physical. He's going to be able to let that competitive spirit, find a home. I'd love to see Tyler Hansbrough figure skate. I'd love to see Tyler Hansbrough speed skate. Him and Bobby Fraser I'd love to see him do some of the skiing stuff that they do in the Olympics. mainly just because I would love to see how bundled up he'd be. I don't know if that's a guy that's built to be out there in the cold weather. So,
well, how the like when they're doing like the cross country skiing and the Norwegians are out there dominating and their cheeks are so red. Like I feel like Tyler would fit right in with that.
I just like, especially with the Winter Olympics, I just want to know, like, at what point in their lives do they tell their mom and dad, like, this is what I want to be when I grow up? Like with the Summer Olympics, you have all the different swimming, you have the diving, you've got the track and field, you've got the decathlon, you've got archery, even you've got all these different events. And it's like, okay, I could see where you tell your dad at 10, 12 years old, yeah, I want to be an Olympian. But when it comes to the Winter Olympics, really outside of the hockey and maybe the skiing, because how popular skiing has gotten,
right?
It really, I would just love to be a fly on the wall for that conversation. That like 12-year-old Jimmy is telling his dad he wants to be a long distance ski person. Because like I just wonder how those conversations go. They can't be as natural as you telling your dad you want to grow up and be the next Michael Jordan or LeBron James.
Right. Gosh, that's so funny to think about. I love a good slide at the park. I think I'm going to try my hand at the luge. Like, what on earth? I love it. All right, Marlo, that's a lot of fun. Guys, if you're tuning in, we'd love to hear from you too. What Tar Heels do you think would make good Olympians? Let us know. Aside from the obvious ones, like we're talking about the basketball players in Winter Olympics, not, well, I'd like to see the basketball players play basketball or some of the Olympic sports, but like, come on, you know what I'm talking about here. All right, Marlo, great to have you on, brother, as always. Man, folks, make sure you go check out all his great work, Four Corners Podcast, Heel Tough blog, everything he and Pags got going on over there. It's always so great. And, they'll have you locked and loaded and ready for Saturday's matchup against Pitt and then the road trip to Raleigh on Tuesday. Oh boy. Marlo, I'm already concerned, and also I'm gonna have to be locked in on it late because somebody scheduled something in my life and I can't get out of it that starts like 30 minutes after tip. I'm so frustrated.
Be better people in your life that make Schade do more than just watch college basketball games.
What are we doing?
I do want to preemptively book myself for next. If we beat NC State, I want to come back on here.
Done.
And be able to talk trash about the Wolfpack.
Done.
Because I as much as I love beating Duke, with as much as Will Wade's talked,
yeah,
someone's got to put little brother in his place.
Yes.
So
what happens if the Tar Heels lose? Are you going to come in and just set the world on fire?
Yeah, maybe we just make it an explicit version of the pod.
I'll have the beep button ready. All right, so we'll find out what's going to happen one way or another. We'll have a very happy Marlo or a very frustrated Marlo and see how we can bring that together. Good grief, we got to beat the Wolfpack. All right, you guys, if you haven't subscribed to the show, video and audio, do it now so you don't miss a second of Locked On Tar Heels. If you haven't checked out the brand new Everydayers Club, that link is in the show notes, as is the link for our Locked On Tar Heels Discord. We'd love to have you come hang out with us there. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. Man, give me some Roy Williams in the Olympics too. I need to see that. All right, you guys, we'll talk to you tomorrow. Coach Rob's going to be with me to help us get ready for this Pitt matchup on Saturday, last quad 3 opportunity of the season. We'll talk tomorrow, but until then, peace.